All right, welcome. I'm Nate Amidon, CEO of Form100 Consulting. Super excited to have Scott Bradley here with us today. He's the CEO of Facet Digital. I said that right, Scott? Is it?
Yeah, I don't use the word CEO, but that's right. Facet
Okay.
Digital. I'm a co-founder and managing partner. Yeah.
Gotcha. And I'm excited to have this conversation because we were talking about AI, and I really wanted to get someone that has some engineering expertise and to really kind of dive a little deeper on what we're seeing in the industry from a technical perspective, from a software development perspective. I mean, I live more in the realm of the processes around software development and Agile and product. So I'm adjacent to it, but I'm not an expert in the actual writing of the code. So love to get your thoughts on this and maybe just give us an overview of Facet Digital first.
Sure. So, yeah, I'm Scott. I'm the co-founder and managing partner at Facet Digital. We're an elastically sized firm of about 20 people, plus or minus. We build and rescue SaaS platforms. We build mobile apps and other things that are all adjacent to that, but really our passion here is helping founders and product leaders launch faster and safer by pairing our senior engineers with pragmatic architecture, cloud, and security best practices with your teams and your technology vision. We also offer a bespoke product slash service that we call Bulwark that is our SaaS foundation for baking in authentication, billing, observability, compliance, security, scalability, architecture, best practices, processes, tooling, static analysis, blah, blah, blah. All
Yeah.
that stuff so you can be enterprise grade rigor, especially important in a industry with high compliance, like say healthcare, HIPAA.
Right.
So your team can be a startup and move like a startup and focus on product, not on plumbing. Lately, we've been adding on top of that, applying AI where it actually moves the needle inside the developer workflows, inside customer support, data heavy operations,
Sure.
and always focusing on guardrails and measurable ROI. Because right now, with AI, the big questions are: Am I getting ROI, and is it safe?
Right. So, but your team, you and your team, you're experts in software development,
That's
right?
correct.
And
Yeah.
actually doing the actual technology, I'd say hands-on keyboard types, right? Of actually implementing a tech. And so, you know, you can't go anywhere without hearing about AI now, right? So AI is everywhere. AI is
Right.
everything. Vibe coding's a thing. Okay. And so,
Mhm.
like, what are you seeing from your perspective? Like, how has AI changed the software development game from your perspective?
So I'm a very pragmatic person. I want to try the new things and stay on the cutting edge, but boring infrastructure wins the day. I don't want to be excited by my infrastructure. That
Okay.
means there's problems, right? So my view, if you filter it all out, the hype that you're hearing is all about moonshots. The value that people are getting is all about boring, repeatable workflows. Most of the wins are coming in things like RAG, retrieval augmented, help desks, document, internal knowledge search,
Right.
coding co-pilots, operations, templates and things like that that are very well documented automation tools that are out there um, doing things we've been doing for a long time with humans. That's where the real value is. And I think the best patterns that emerge are the human in the loop patterns where there's a clear KPI like amount of time saved or defect rate or feature velocity, those kinds of things where you have something you can measure,
Yeah.
and a tight feedback loop like when you have test automation and lint rules and things that and processes that your AIs can follow. So the trend that I see is that um, the choice of what model is going to be commoditized. Like, are you using Claude or Gemini or Quen or, but they're all just leapfrogging each other.
Hmm.
And really, that base model is going to be five or 10 big players, Facebook, Microsoft, OpenAI, right?
Yeah.
And it's really hard to compete on that because of the scale it requires to compete at it. But the advantage is now shifting to companies that have data quality, data evaluation, operations, and putting those things to use. So if you're in a company that says, "Hey, I read about AI in the Wall Street Journal, we should use that too." Slow
Right.
down. You need the first question your consultants or your team is going to ask is about your data, where it lives, how it's vetted, what's its traceability, what's its provenance, how can we quality control it,
Yeah.
blah blah blah. And you're going to go, "What data story?" we got to solve that first. That's where you're really going to get value out of this AI. And I think right now, AI is not a product, it's a capability that you wire into your existing processes.
Mm. Right. Because I mean, I'm hearing this all the time, right? Oh, dude, you can just vibe code it, right? I mean, you can just tell AI what you want and it'll write it'll do it all for you. All right. And so, but like from your perspective, like that's not where AI is at. Like you can't,
Well, vibe coding is interesting for prototyping for sure, but it feels like, to me, the analogy that I've been kind of mulling over in my head is like we all know what deep fake is, right? You see a video of Trump saying stuff that
right,
you know he would never say. And but it looks like him, it sounds like him, it's almost virtually indistinguishable. It's a deep fake, but it isn't Trump. It's a deep fake of Trump,
right.
right? So when you build an app vibe coded in the true sense of the word, of like basically I'm not even looking at the code, I'm just letting the machine do it.
Hmm.
Your vibe coded app is just a deep fake of an app. It's like not a real app. It's like Pinocchio. It's not a real boy.
Right.
It looks like it on the outside. It's very good at deeply faking it. But when you put it out into production, we're seeing story after story in the industry,
Yeah.
and we're getting pings after pings about, hey, I vibe coded this to 80%. Can you help me fix it? No, they did 80% of the part over the ice, well, over the water on the iceberg, and they don't even they're not software architects and engineers. They don't understand that
Right.
there's another giant piece of iceberg underneath that, and it's not really a production ready app. That's what I'm seeing with vibe coding. But on the other hand, I had a product idea the other day. I blurbed into the microphone for 30 seconds, gave it to Chat GPT and said, turn this into some product research and a product pitch idea.
Yeah.
And then I gave it to Lovable, the output of that, and said, make a marketing website for this idea, fake the marketing numbers, blah, blah, blah. I don't never looked at the code. Looks great. It's totally fake. I know it, but I could go pitch people on it, right?
Right.
Like, so
Yeah.
that's kind of where I see um, vibe coding. I think vibe coding is just it's a popular term that's easy to say, but really what we
Right.
need is AI assisted tooling for expert software engineers. That's where the value is.
Right. And I think that's a big distinction. And so, AI is not just going to replace software engineers or not yet, right? And and so I guess what I'm hearing you say is like, look, you still need the foundational best practices. Like you need the knowledge. It's a tool that helps people do their stuff faster. Would that be a better way to say it?
I think so. I mean, it's maybe a little bit oversimplification, but I've been saying it's like, building houses by swinging a hammer, and then one day you get a nail gun.
Mm,
And, the analogies we're hearing when people, when the big FANG companies are like, yeah, 30% of our code is now written by AI. That's like me saying, well, I used a nail gun to build this house. So 30% of this house was built by that nail gun. Well, not quite, right? I
yeah.
mean, maybe 30% of the time you took off your job was using a nail gun instead of a hammer, right?
Right.
There's certainly value, but we're hype washing it, when we hear it in the news. So I definitely think it's a tool to make us faster, better.
Mhm.
I can honestly say, as a guy who has been a lifelong coder, but as a businessman who doesn't get to code as much anymore, I
Sure.
can jump into code and pick up, and I know what I want it to do as an expert, but I don't have to think so much, switch my brain over into like language, syntax, structure. I can kind of say like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to add.
Yeah.
I want to ask questions about the code. It's really, really valuable for finding questions and finding answers to questions about the code because it's great at summarization. It can read your
Right.
entire code base in seconds and give you a idea of all the data flows that exercise this function you're concerned about. I mean, that would take hours for a
Yeah.
human, and maybe a few less hours when you got a good IDE, and now just minutes with AI.
You're right. Yeah, I've heard that it's like, look, it takes away some of the just the kind of the routine stuff that isn't super value add anyway.
Right.
And it's going to make it's definitely making engineers more productive. I mean, do you agree with that? Do you feel
I,
like there's a
yeah,
productivity increase?
I think there is, and there's a few studies that have kind of tried to quantify some of these things from different companies and from different academic orgs. I'm not sure I can really put a lot of stock in any of them yet because every cohort's completely different, doing different things, right?
Yeah.
But I think in my experience, I can say um, early on in the adoption of using AI heavily in your coding workflow, it might actually be a net negative. And the reason is because it gets addicting to have the machine do your work for you. And it's very easy, even if you know I'm putting my name on this, I need to look at every line that I commit, whether I wrote it or AI wrote it, it's
Yeah.
still coming from me. You know it, you think it. It's just really easy to subconsciously get lazy. It looks pretty good, man.
Right.
Or you say the AI told me with extreme confidence, okay, it's definitely going to work this time, and you want to believe them.
Right.
You do that too much, you end up undoing, you end up misstepping. Not even to mention the horror stories you hear on LinkedIn of people like it deleted my database. Like, okay, you learn that once and you figure out how to protect against it. But
Yeah.
beyond that, um, then when you start to figure out, okay, I got to treat this AI actually like I wish the human product owners and product managers have treated us human developers all along. Give us good specs, give us tight iterations, give us clear goals, outline a process, you do all that stuff.
Yeah.
And, if you hear a lot of people say, oh, if you're not getting the value, it's because you're not prompting it right. If you give it a great spec, and it's like, when the fuck have you ever gotten a great spec? you know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, okay. So now the business owner thinks, hey, I don't need to hire developers anymore. I can just write the specs and
Yep.
generate a multi-billion-dollar business. And then they're finding out the hard way that actually there used to be layers and layers between them and the devs that helped figure out what the hell he actually meant, turn it into specs, do the market
Right.
research, all the things. If you do
Right.
those, I think, you're already a good performing, a well-performing team.
Hmm.
And now you've got AI to do some of those things more quickly.
Right. And I've been thinking a lot about this, right? Where it's like it's going to keep getting better, right? I mean, it's going to
Yep.
get more capable. And like we kind of talked about it, it'll automate a lot of this, the kind of the routine stuff, right? Like I love the nail analogy, it's just you're going to
Mhm.
spend less time swinging a hammer, okay? But keeping like alignment and feedback loops tight are going to be just super important, right? Because it's
Yep.
because like the the time it takes to write the code is probably not going to be the biggest constraint anymore.
It's never been, I mean, the thing is, it's the dirty secret here is that typing was never the hard part, right?
Right.
It's the
Right.
thinking. And there's a pattern in the industry where, I mean, that I've observed since the 80s, where I don't know what the cycle is, every 8 years, there's some new low code tool or visual tool or drag and drop tool. And it's like, now we don't need coders anymore. We took out the hard part. The hard part isn't learning Python or JavaScript or C. They're just languages. You can learn Spanish and English, if you study them, right?
Sure.
Um, and they're much simpler languages than natural language. They're not that hard to learn if
Hmm.
you can just think through the flow. But the hard part is thinking through the flow, thinking through the ramifications, the system design, the outputs, inputs, the goals, the
Right.
maintainability, the structure, all those things, and actually thinking and inventing solutions has
Yeah.
always been the hard part. The typing it is not,
Right.
right?
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of the things that we do, and we have a military background. Our firm's all former military officers, and so for us, alignment is so important, and that means from like what we're building and the business surrounding it to the people doing the work, and and so those micro decisions that engineers make, y- understanding why we're doing it, who the customer is, they make those micro decisions fast, as
Right.
opposed to not knowing and then having to wait to answer questions. And so that those feedback loops over, exponential amount of time start to scale and make a huge difference. And so I think as we get more capable in the engineering side, we're able to do things faster. Those decisions even become more important. The
And I
ability,
think AI can help you there.
right?
One of the things, one of the things we always joke about as software developers, like everyone's talking about how AI is going to replace our jobs. Well, why don't we use AI to replace the product owner, the product manager, the
Yeah.
CEO, the marketing guy, the sales guy? Fucking replace everybody.
Yeah.
Like why just us? But
Right.
I honestly think, look, I run a company. I don't have an MBA. I'm not a business major kind of guy. I've learned a lot over the last decade, but
Yeah.
sometimes I can just ask Chat GPT for the tried and true Harvard Business School methodology
Right.
for dealing with this business thing.
Yeah.
Man, did I learn a lot fast without, without having to do that, or deep research. I have a market product idea. I
Yeah.
set Perplexity off and say, go do full market analysis of the
Mhm.
TAM, the market opportunity, who are the incumbent
Yep.
players, what's the churn at these things, what are the user studies saying, what are the feature gaps, what are the biggest areas in the market that are underserved, and just I've
Right.
got a 18-page breakdown of this idea telling me exactly what part of the market to
Yep.
focus on, what features I need, what I need to do. Like
Yeah.
that's two staff members for a week or more of work
Yeah.
done in 30 minutes.
Or a whole team. I mean, it's
Yeah.
so I it hits on such a important point, which I like. A lot of times, the Agile world, I think, gets stuck in this idea that we're inside the team sprints, and it's like requirements to code, and that's it. But there's really this whole funnel from how you go from idea to actually releasing feedback. And there's a whole set of processes from there's business analysts and product owners and prioritization decisions, and there's coordination. It's like the bigger the enterprise, the more complex that flow gets. And
Mhm.
and so I think AI is going to be an accelerant across the board. And if organizations don't start optimizing the entire process, any gains in software development in writing of code isn't going to matter because they're just
That's
going to be
right.
constrained.
Well, yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, like in the Toyota lean manufacturing or lean
Yep.
software development flow kind of thing,
Right.
you're thinking about one single piece flow and pull driven, and
Yeah.
finding the bottlenecks. Well, all we're doing is making one part of our assembly line more efficient.
Exactly.
But if you understand, how an assembly line works, you now have the next stage backed up. So, now we got to talk about QA, we got to talk about documentation, we got to talk about release and operations. And maybe they're moving too fast to pull. Maybe we're not getting requirements fast enough from upstream now. And,
Yeah.
so maybe this is the argument that says, well, AI is going to take jobs because now that one part of our pipeline is moving too fast. We need to slow it down. We need fewer
Yeah.
people. Um, not because AI is doing their jobs, but because AI is helping them be too productive. We need fewer people to do the same amount of work. Now, I argue historically that American business industry has never actually executed that way. When you make the team twice as productive, maybe there's a bump where we fire half the team, but next year you're hiring double the team because now you can be 4x productive, right?
Yeah.
That's how we work in the real world. So if you
Exactly.
give me a tool that makes my team twice as productive, I'm trying to close twice as many clients, not fire
Yeah.
half my team,
Yeah.
right?
And if you have a tool that makes one of the things I've been saying a lot lately is like if you have if we have a tool that's going to double or triple the say double the productivity of an engineering team, but you aren't set up to optimize that through that entire assembly line flow, then you're not going to
Yeah.
you're not going to reap any of these benefits. And the organizations that are optimizing the whole value stream are the ones that are going to, I think, rapidly.
Yeah, I think you're hitting on something really interesting there. It's like we're focusing so hard on a key use case of the current generation of AI,
Mhm.
generating code,
Right.
that has seemed like a black box to most of humanity. It's just us, little 1% of the population that are like
Yeah.
super nerds that
Yeah.
get it,
Magician.
right? We're the magicians. Now it's like, hey, I don't have to rely on persnickety prima donna humans to do this part. I can get AI to do it. And it on the other side, it looks super confident. It always tells me my idea is great. It's perfectly sycophantic. It's like, what's not to love about this human replacement? Well, what's not to love is how it has that ripple effect through your entire pipeline that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So it's completely going to change your business dynamic. So it's not just a myopic decision. It's got to be a holistic plan, like you
Right.
said. And I think the other is, it's a black box. If engineering is a black box to you, do you want a human inside the black box or a robot inside the black box? I mean, I think a lot of people want the robots because they think it's going to be cheaper, it can work 24/7, doesn't get tired, doesn't
Yeah.
complain. But on the other hand, some of those signals coming out of your engineers, getting tired, complaining, pushing back, dragging their feet, that sounds like management problems, but it might actually be a signal of something like we're
Right.
building the wrong thing or our process isn't working or
Yep.
something. And if you miss that signal, because the AI always tells you what you want to hear because it's designed,
Yeah.
statistically speaking, to give you the answer that is going to make you happy. And when you click thumbs up and thumbs down on a chat GPT answer, you're helping train it
Yep.
on how to answer in a way that the user likes, not on how to answer in a way that is correct.
Yeah.
And so like that thing's building the backbone of your business. I think you need more humans in the loop. Maybe fewer than you need today because it's a tool that makes them go faster. But
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's still a like I'd say technology is built by people and by teams of people, and we're just going to be more capable people. But like the people aspect is still there, for sure.
yeah, and fundamentally, I see it as a research assistant, decision making assistant, but not the decision maker. I mean, if you know anything about how this technology works, it's not thinking, it's not reasoning. It looks like it is because the only way you as a human have to judge if there's a thought process going on in my head is by hearing the words that come out of my mouth. And
Yeah.
if somebody else can approximate those same words, you just subconsciously assume they're thinking, just like if the human says it, they're thinking. But it's
Right.
not. It's a model. All models are wrong, right? That's the definition of a model. It's not the real thing. It's a model of the real thing,
Right.
and it's just going to put that confidence barrier. I just feel like there's a human psychology aspect here that the AI is. I don't wouldn't say it's taking advantage of, but we are blind to because of human psychology and DNA, right? Like it's why con man's like it's why a con man is successful. The con just stands for confidence. A con man is a guy who makes you feel confident that you're gonna, benefit from this relationship, and then he screws you. I mean, AI makes you feel confident that what he's doing is right,
Yeah.
and you're just built to believe him. So humans in the loop is still, I think, really important. And so I'm advising some young kids just going into college studying computer science,
Yeah.
and it's pretty scary. You might say like, would you tell, 10 years ago, I'd be like, get a
Yeah.
computer science degree. It's the most in
Right.
demand thing. Now, today, it's like, you're going to spend $300,000 on a top notch college education to come out and not be able to get a job because we don't hire junior programmers anymore.
Yeah.
So, what am I telling them? I'm telling them to learn the fundamentals because someone needs to understand what these things are doing under the hood,
Right.
and learn to use them as tools because, as cliche as it is these days, you're not going to get replaced by AI. You're going to get replaced by somebody else who does use AI.
Yeah.
You know, so you gotta know what they're good at, what they're bad at, how to be the human in the loop, how to design the systems, how to assemble them together, how to orchestrate them. Maybe we aren't programmers anymore. We're architects and managers of fleets of AIs.
Yeah.
Today with Claude Code, I can spin up 30 AI bots, each working on a different ticket in a different branch and
Yeah.
orchestrate them all. Do you Who's going to orchestrate that? It's got to be someone who knows what they're doing.
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, so, it's just so interesting. All right, let me jump back to a little bit of like a
Sure.
tactical thing right now. Like, what are you seeing from? Because I think this is interesting, especially for people that don't have engineering, aren't engineers. Like, so what is AI like not good at right now? Like,
I
what are some of its limitations?
I think the biggest thing that we're going to see is your general average AI is pretty weak at niche facts unless you have like a solid retrieval, database. Um, it's pretty good at well-known facts. If I ask like, hey, I'm getting brown spots on my lawn, what should I do? It's like, well, you can fertilize it, you can water it, you can,
Right.
but if I have some niche problem, like, this fancy alloy that I invented for my super race car wheel bearings is reaching too high of a temperature, what should I do? Like, it's not first principles physicist that's going to figure that out for you. It's
Yeah.
just, I think it's weak at those kind of niche facts areas and private facts areas, like, hey, what was my what was my most prolific line of business in 2017? Like nobody knows that except me or,
Gotcha.
some spreadsheet somewhere. So unless I
Yeah.
get solid data management and retrieval, we're pretty weak at private, niche, or even just fresh, right? Like something new. I want to invent a new idea or brainstorm. It's fun. It seems useful, but I just think that's where LLM is limited right now because it just knows what it's been trained on.
Yeah.
And I think the other limitation is that hallucinations and brittleness and repeatability of your results.
Yeah.
I mean, because there's a built-in randomness factor. The same prompt twice doesn't get the same answer.
Yeah.
Um, and with small data changes and small prompt changes, things can go way off the rails, sort of unexpectedly, and or not. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that I think the non deterministic and propensity for hallucination because it's not trying to say, oh, I looked at my brain and said I don't know that. It's trying to say what is the most likely thing that I
Right.
could say that satisfies the question. So that's where hallucinations come from. So I think hallucinations, brittleness, access to like the less popular average fact set, that's where it's getting hard. And so for coders, I think that's like make me an app that does X and just expecting it to do the whole thing.
Yeah.
Um, you're going to get an app that looks like everything else and it's
Yeah.
probably going to be half-assed and just the tip of the iceberg. Whereas if you say, all right, I would like to use Auth0, I'm writing in TypeScript, I have a React front end, here's my React front end code base,
Yeah.
add a login page that embeds the Auth0 widget. Now, okay, I can do one thing and say, okay, now where do I get my client secret from? I can't just hard code it like AI will often do. That's
Gotcha.
a security violation. I need to say, okay, go set up, write me the cloud formation template to create an Amazon secret store and put this secret in there and then write the code to call it to get it. I've done this code a million times and I know it's going to take me a day or two to get it working and tested, but with AI, I can do it in an hour because I know what I'm asking for, right? So
Yeah.
stay within those limits. Don't go too far to say, hey, I have a new idea for a social network that lets you take photos but only share them with people whose last names end with the same last three letters as yours, and just like have some weird idea
Right.
and just give it that at the top. You're gonna have to do a lot more iterations. That's one limit. The other is I think the cost profile and the ROI profile is a big elephant in the room that we're not addressing because
Yeah.
I just saw an analysis today of someone who's using Claude Flow to basically 24/7 run 100,000 agents doing stuff, and they're looking at the number of tokens they've used, and they're extrapolating out, going, okay, um, based on what we know from Anthropic and others,
Hmm.
he's doing a bunch of napkin math, doesn't have all the data, but he's saying basically what I'm doing here is like $1 billion a month in cost to Anthropic. And I'm just one shop, one big shop, right? But
Sure.
and they're charging me $20 a month for it or $200 a month for it or whatever, right? So like,
Yeah.
and we can see that across the board, and it's already happening every week. One of the big players announces like a new tier where you got to pay
Mhm.
more to get the same amount you've been getting now. Um, and then the newer model is going to be more expensive. They're going to say, oh, you got unlimited pro, but that was on this generation. The next generation that's way better, and we're going to put fewer resources on this
Mhm.
one. It's going to get slower. You're just going to constantly, and
Yep.
I think we're on a ramp pretty quickly here to start understanding the real cost of using AI. And I
Right.
think that I, I wouldn't say nobody, but like a year ago, I would have said nobody has figured out how to actually drive profit with AI and
Right.
monetize it and trace it back. And I think we're getting there. And it's the teams like Perplexity and it's the teams like
Yeah.
Clay and the people that are building useful tools on top of the commodity foundation models.
Right.
Um, and so if we really think about the limitate, what's the limitation today? The limitation today is you're trusting it to do too much things in areas where it's limited, like the areas we just talked about.
Yeah.
But you're paying for it like it's so much cheaper than a human because it's $20 a month, when really it's costing the service provider $2,000 a month or $20,000 a month,
Right.
and they're just eating it for now, like a drug dealer getting you hooked on the first taste. And then and now you're going to build all your workflows on it, and you're going to be tied to it, and then they can just jack the rates up 100x. And what are you going to do? So I think
Yeah.
when talk about LLM limitations, I'm like, think about how much the cost is really going to be. Don't take today's pricing as your model. Um, and
Yeah.
and just overall, the thing that we go over and over again with the limits is the limits of using LLMs is like you. I've said it a bunch of times, human in the loop, but I think really it comes down to like they're great at autocomplete in small pieces. They're not an authoritative truth. You
Right.
need to treat outputs as suggestions with confidence,
Hmm.
not facts with certainty. Right? This is
Yeah.
not a Google search that found a well-researched page that from an authoritative answer. Right? This is
Right.
suggestions with a confidence number. Literally, that's like when an LLM is auto completing words for you, it's using statistical analysis
Yeah.
essentially to tell you what's the most what answer do I have the most confidence in. It's not 100%,
Yep.
right? So, and let's be honest, same with humans. You ask me how to do something, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
say I have a great joke inside the house. I call my wife GPT sometimes because
Yeah.
I'll ask her like, "Hey, where's the peanut butter?" She's like, "It's right there on that shelf you're looking at." And I'm like, "No, it's not." She's like, "Oh, never mind, it's over here." It's like, you're like wife GPT. You're just hallucinating facts with confidence, right? um,
Yeah.
so, so my soundbite is like, just make sure you're treating the output of the AI as well-informed suggestions with a level of confidence that's not 100%.
Right.
Fact check. Don't treat it like they're facts with certainty.
Yeah. And I think the cost thing is to your point, something people aren't really factoring in. It's like,
Right.
oh, this engineer with ChatGPT, but like, or with whatever, AI system they're using, but eventually there's going to be a cost associated with that as well. And I think that uh needs
Yeah.
needs to be factored in for sure.
Yeah. We saw a client that, they had like a big dashboard full of pie charts and metrics and tables,
Yeah.
for an analytics product. And they decided to roll out, this was probably a year and a half ago. So, totally different times in AI. Um, but they rolled out a sidebar that said, given all the data on my screen, write me the English executive summary. So they just basically take that data, feed it to an open AI API
Yeah.
call, get back a summary. And I thought, hey, that's actually a pretty clever use,
Yeah.
and they said, yeah, well, we're not sure on the ROI. We can't charge any of our existing customers more money for this thing on the side.
Yep.
B, we can't charge new customers extra for it. They don't care enough. C, it doesn't drive any more sticky engagement. It's just like a good product feature, but it's costing us an average of like $4 a month per user in token usage. So, and our profit margin's already only $5 a user. So now we're sending all of our profits to OpenAI. And
Yeah.
like what's the value here?
No, I mean, and ultimately, like, well, I think about this in the world I live in the agile process world. It's like everything should have an ROI, right?
Mhm.
We don't just do things to do things, and there should be a reason behind it. And I think that's something to consider when you're, starting to look at these AI models. Um, One other question I'm super interested on, I know we're running short on time, is what do you think QA looks like? Now I see QA, I see teams that don't have QAs at all because they're, test-driven development, quality first, if you build it, you test it. All the way down the spectrum to, hey, we have a team of manual QAs that's writing test scripts and executing test scripts before releases. Like, just what are your thoughts around that position and just like the quality as a whole with AI?
Man, there's so much unknown here and so much open field. I've got a million thoughts on this question. Um, you know, like I think one of the key things that comes to mind recently is I think we are missing traceability with to the prompt layer, right? So I feel like we need to treat our prompts like code, and um, the evaluation of our prompts almost like unit tests in a sense. This is a half-baked idea, but
Yeah.
like you just kind of ad hoc prompt and then you just kind of ad hoc get results. I think we need to processize that a little bit more in the just like we don't just ad hoc type code keywords and then just
Yeah.
ad hoc run it. Like
Right.
I think we need some traceability to what prompts generated this code, what code came out, is it what we expected? So there's a little bit of that I think is kind of an open field, coding assistants getting better, helping you sort of QA your prompt cycle. I
Yeah.
think another thing is you know, so much comes to mind about documentation
Mhm.
all the time over the years and now.
Yep.
And it's easy to be in the industry for 30 years and then to be like, I'm so tired of writing documentation because nobody ever reads it.
Right.
Well, you know who reads it now? The
Yeah.
AI, and it reads every word precisely.
Yep.
So now your docs are actually more important. So
Hmm.
if you can actually really document the expected behavior
Yeah.
of your SaaS app,
Yeah.
you can probably automate a lot of the manual QA scripts
Mhm.
with. I mean, we already do with things like Playwright and
Right.
Selenium, right?
Yeah.
But that's still a coder coding what to click on, what to do. But now, instead of me saying, did the pixels on the page show up as I wrote the tests to verify? And then if the pixels change, the test break, gotta change them. Now, what I think we're trending toward is here's the spec of, or user stories, or however you want to say it,
Right.
in detail of what should happen. When I log in and my password isn't found, I should see this. I
Mhm.
should be not be allowed in. Like what are the things? Now, an AI agent can open a browser, hit your site, and actually, without
Yeah.
being programmed to find the login button, can read the screen and find the login button. So you can just say,
Yeah.
hey, go test my site. Does it do these things? I think that's going to be a big boost to QA.
Yeah.
But just like in the rest of our conversation, like the non-determinism and the
Right.
hallucination, we're still going to need QA engineers that actually know what good QA looks like to be in
Right.
that pipeline. But just like I said, I could envision an expert coder running 100 agents in parallel,
Yep.
little minions doing his bidding. I think the QA team is going to need to do the same thing. They're going
Yep.
to have these agents saying, all right, I want an agent that just exercises every part of the login, failed login, forgot login, reset login, lockout, all that stuff. Sign up,
Yep.
off. I want one bot off, looking at the product requirements and driving the browser to verify that that's how it works.
Right.
Um, I can. Well, meanwhile, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to look at their
Yeah.
results and go, "Wait, did you test this? I need it to be traceable. Did you? Maybe I'm helping it write the test plan and making
Yeah.
sure. Um, I think that's where QA and AI are going to intersect. I mean, there's a lot of other things like
Sure.
um, let's just say you embed an AI chat in your product. So I
Yeah.
have a client who, has kind of like a strength finders like book. You take a little test online
Okay.
and it kind of puts you into, your type A, type B, type C or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you can chat with it and say like, I'm a type C and I'm feeling really annoyed at work about all these meetings. And then
Yeah.
it'll like give you some strategies kind of like
Right.
from the book or from whatever, like you're talking to a therapist, like, you know what, you should try taking 5 breaths before you go into this meeting, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But what if, okay, you're the product owner of this product and
Yeah.
all you're really doing is just outsourcing the intelligence part. You
Yeah.
got the data, but you're outsourcing the intelligence to OpenAI. And a user comes in and says, I can't face my boss today, and maybe OpenAI just that day happens to go like, you should just quit. And it's like, well, like how do you
Yeah.
QA your product for not giving bad advice when you've completely outsourced the advice to a non-deterministic AI,
Yeah.
right? So I think QA teams are going to need to figure out like golden data sets and golden question scenarios
Yeah.
and a zone of expected output because you can't have an exact expected output. It's different every time,
Yeah.
and you can probably build systems with AI to do that. Let's say that my user comes in and asks this question. They have this data profile. I expect for this question to get this kind of answer. It can be anywhere in this area zone, but it can't be these things. It can't be
Mhm.
kill yourself, quit your job, divorce your wife, you know, but
For
it can
sure.
be but it can be in the zone of mental
Yeah.
health, of behavioral therapy, of workplace business guidelines.
Right.
And then now what you got to do is you got to say, I need a second AI from a different model to check. the first AI. So I might build a thing that takes
Yeah.
that question and that data, asks OpenAI, gets the result, has a definition of what we expect the result to be,
Right.
and then I go use Claude to say, did OpenAI's result meet my criteria? And even that is not deterministic. So I still need a human in the loop, just
Yeah.
making sure that we're constantly doing this right.
Right. And
Um,
I mean, it seems like, like obviously quality is going to be important. It's going to be almost more important in a lot of ways and how you set up the systems. And I love what you said about like, hey, it's gonna be able to test off of a set of documentation. And, I've been around this long enough to know like how often does documentation not get updated? And how often is it like stale and old and keeping those things organized? And I guess it goes back to like the whole flow needs to advance in lockstep here. Otherwise,
correct.
otherwise you're going to run into these, gnarly issues and you're going to get stuck. So, God, I don't, it's super interesting. And I know we're running short on time. So, hey, I'd say like, I think the key takeaway here is like, it's a tool, right? It's a nail gun. So you
Mhm.
can spend less time swinging hammers. It's going to get better. Teams are going to get more efficient, and really the whole flow of value delivery through software needs to be updated, right? It needs
I,
to
I
it needs to change.
I think that's a great thesis, especially for a guy like you and your business. I mean, the
Yeah.
point is what got us here won't get us there. That's always the case.
Yep.
Just because it's always been done some way doesn't mean it's got to be done that way now. But we don't
Right.
throw away the lessons of the past. We need experts
Mhm.
in the full software delivery lifecycle flow mechanics to help us evolve that whole picture in light of this new tool and these new emerging tools that we have.
Yep.
Um, I can imagine that if you were a home builder sitting at a draftsman table with a pencil or whatever and
Yeah.
drawing plans and rolling them up and taking them to the job site
Uh-huh.
and then giving it to a foreman, and a foreman goes and gets subcontractors and they make a
Yep.
plan and do all this stuff, that when they came out with CAD, it changed your workflow a little bit. Maybe not massively, but
Right.
maybe now my workflow is, you know what, I can have the builder sharing online my CAD as I'm drawing it, and we can get questions and answers done in real time. So instead of having him be a discrete part of our flow, we've moved him upstream and put him into this part of the flow.
Yeah.
Whatever, right? I'm making that up, but it totally makes sense that advent of new tools, new efficiencies is going to change your process if you want to keep optimal.
For sure. I mean, I'll make one quick anecdote here is like, so I spent 20 years flying C-17s, big cargo planes in the Air Force. And so really we've been using AI my whole career with autopilot, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and it frees you up to actually solve the real problems, right? It's
Yeah,
when there's an issue, I put the autopilot on. Now I have time to actually solve for the issue as opposed to focusing on making sure I'm flying straight and level, right? And so,
absolutely. I
yeah,
think nursing is a great example of that, right? Like
yeah,
as computers have come into the hospitals in the last 35 years, 40 years, um, at first it was like, oh no, computers are taking our job because my job is writing down his vitals in his chart every hour.
yep,
No, no, no. Your job is caring for the patient and showing empathy and listening to them. The
right,
writing on paper, that's a computer's job now,
yeah,
right? And it
right,
actually frees up the nurses to do what they really got into nursing for, which isn't paperwork, right? I mean, my
right.
brother's a cop. I could imagine that if he had a body cam that, I mean, he does have a body cam, but if he had one that had AI that was listening and summarizing the whole thing, like, could you just take writing police reports off his plate?
Hmm.
Probably. In fact, I bet Axon's building that right now.
No, there's so many use cases, and thanks for taking the time. I love talking with engineers, people that actually understand how to build these systems, and engineers do the work. So, yeah, I think it's thanks for taking the time to chat, and really appreciate your perspective.
Yeah, thanks, Nate. Thanks for inviting me. It was fun talking as always, and happy to do it again sometime.
Yeah,
I know we had a million other topics we could have covered, but
for sure.
yeah, we'll get them when we get them.
All right, thanks, Scott.
All right. Yeah, thanks. Have a good day.